of backing away from this pledge for the party, especially going into a general election. What does that say about the party as a whole if they can't even back each other?
Wow, just a little bit more contention, just what we need, right? You know, I think the fact that they're all sort of doing the same thing makes it equal playing ground, and I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. I always say that Donald Trump is the Teflon Don because he's untouchable, and this is probably just another example of that. It seems that anything he does is just seen as fresh and new and different for the Republican Party, and everyone's sort of rallying behind it and liking it. So nothing really seems to have much of an impact on him.
So, AJ, nothing has an impact on Donald Trump, but what impact does this have?
On The Apprentice 3 with Donald Trump, that was almost 10 years ago. He had political aspirations even then. So when this all came to light, I wasn't even surprised in the slightest. This, to me, seems like almost his next move that he's always wanted to do. To say that he doesn't really want to be president is just another example of someone drinking haterade.
Haterade. Well, the final straw for this woman, incidentally, was Donald Trump's reactions to the recent attacks in both Pakistan and Brussels. She said she was expecting and hoping that he would offer his condolences, send out messages uniting the country, what have you. Instead, she says he came out and said, "I told you so." If he, in fact, was president and he did oversee tragedies like this, would you want him to be a president who unites the country and expresses condolences, or somebody who says, "See, I told you"?
Well, he's not the president yet, and when he is, I know that he will be very, very sympathetic to victims of all types. Right now, he's just basically saying, we have a major red flag out there. That flag is ISIS. Somebody has to do something. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, the sky really is falling. And I think that right now, yes, he might not be super sympathetic because of course he is to the people, and his whole campaign has said that over and over and again. He's very sympathetic to the people, but to the politicians in power right now, I think he's just had enough of them doing nothing and sitting back and sitting on their hands and watching tragedy after tragedy. So as to the victims, he's very sympathetic. But as to politics and business as usual in Washington, he's had enough. So is he sympathetic? Of course.
And AJ, every bruises on her arms, that's hardly just a touch or a brush and pulling somebody back. I mean, would you say that that's at the very least excessive?
No. Well, I would first of all say as an attorney that would never be admissible in court. First of all, that could be makeup. Second of all, that photograph cannot be sort of authorized or verified, anything like that. That could have been from 6 years ago. It could have been from yesterday. It could have been from someone else's arm. There is no way that there's attribution there.
But there were witnesses there.
Well, there's witnesses to him pulling her back, which could be in self-defense for Mr. Trump. Moreover, she was holding a pen. That could have been a knife. My mother gave me one of those exact devices for protection on the streets at night. She could have been holding a knife. She could have had poison in there. She could have had chemicals in there. Also, the Secret Service that was with them on this day has already sided with Mr. Trump. And this woman has known factually to be a bit of an attention seeker, and her family have gone online and posted defamatory things about Mr. Trump and his campaign. So she has an agenda here, and I'm certainly not victim shaming, just as any defense lawyer would do. They would try to impeach the credibility of the witness. And in this case, this witness is not credible.
But again, this was a rally where reporters were allowed. There were many reporters there. This is something we consistently see throughout campaigns. AJ, do you want to jump? Omarosa also was on The Apprentice. She's a supporter of Donald Trump's as well. She has made the prediction that if, in fact, Donald Trump loses in Wisconsin, that Cory will be let go. Do you think that in fact will happen? And what are your thoughts on Omarosa weighing in that respect?
Anyone's entitled to opinion, as we've seen all over this election. Everyone is commenting on it. I do not believe that Cory is going to be let go. As an attorney, this is a misdemeanor, which means it's less than a year in jail. And people get charged with things, and that does not mean that they are convicted of them. He is innocent until proven guilty. In the eyes of Mr. Trump, we already believe that he hasn't done anything, and the justice system will agree. As I said, impeaching the credibility of this witness, no jury is going to think that she has a right to any sort of claim here or that Cory is guilty in any way, shape, or form. So I think regardless of what happens, that Cory is going to be with the campaign. And the fact about Omarosa weighing in, she knows Donald as well, so hey, she's entitled to her opinion.
And Donald Trump has doubled down in support of Cory as well. As you mentioned, he said she could have been carrying anything from a knife to know that they're not perfect. I mean, are there times and opportunities where you hear Donald Trump say things and say, you know, I still support the man, I don't support that message, or I don't think he should have said that comment right there? Are there those moments?
Absolutely. I mean, I love my family unconditionally, and sometimes I don't love every little solitary thing they do, except for my husband. Of course, he's perfect. But you know what I'm saying? I don't think you have to love every single aspect of of everything everyone says to be a supporter and an advocate.
And finally, both of you, and I'm going to start with you, Erin, because you're with me. It's a slippery slope, though, if in fact it is going to be, if he is the nominee, and in a general election running against the first female presidential candidate, and that being Hillary Clinton, given his past rhetoric and comments about women. What advice would you give him, if asked, as to how he should approach running against a female candidate and opponent?
Well, I would say I want women and men to be treated equally. So I would just, I don't think that women should be treated with kid gloves or sort of, we're not the meeker sex. So treat everyone equally with the same amount of respect and decorum, truthfully. I would say to Mr. Trump, you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. Bone up on all of the issues that we already know that you're working on. And I think he's prepared. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows Hillary personally. So I don't really see that this is any sort of downside for him. I think he'll be prepared. I think he'll be ready. And I think he's going to do a great job, and this is going to be a really, really, really good competition.
AJ, I really appreciate you joining us today.